Who are we voting for? Meet the candidates. Who Are We Voting For was created so we could understand who the candidates are and what they are about. This is not an endorsement for any candidate. This is for the voter to be more educated about who we're voting for.
Hi, I'm Dan Miller. I am currently the state representative in the 42nd District, which basically is the South Hills of Pittsburgh, Mount Lebanon, Dormont, Castle Shannon, Upper St. Clair, Baldwin Township, that community area. So, I'm not from Pennsylvania originally. So my family, I'm the first one in my family, both my mother and my father were immigrants. So I'm the first one born in the United States. My mother and father came over in the late 60s, moved to a town on the New York border, found each other, and had a very passionate but brief marriage that didn't always end the way I think they hoped it would. But it ended up with 2 children. I am the oldest. My sister still lives in Connecticut, and most of my family is from there. I moved to Pennsylvania with my wife about 23 years ago, I think now, and our first place was in Point Breeze. So I actually was coming out here to finish my law school at the University of Pitt. I was studying for the bar, ended up being a visiting student there, renting an apartment in Point Breeze while my wife worked at the Steelworkers. And thankfully ended up passing the bar. And my wife, of course, during the time I was studying, she was like, I'm gonna go house hunting, I'm gonna go house hunting. And she wanted to bring me in to help. And I'm like, look, I'm studying for the bar, whatever it is, I'm sure you're gonna pick the right home. She's like, no, you gotta come, you gotta come. We ended up going to Mount Lebanon. I didn't own a car, so we needed a T, right? I biked everywhere. And so we saw one home, first home. And we got into Mount Lebanon, and I go, done. And we were able to purchase our first home in Mount Lebanon some 23 years ago. And ever since then, we've been blessed to be part of that community. And I've been elected now, I think, 8 terms for different offices. I joined the Mount Lebanon Fire Department probably about almost 20 years ago now too. I have a son who's graduating from Mount Lebanon High School, which we're very proud of, does tremendous work in band and percussion. My wife continues to work at the Steelworkers building. She's been there for a long time doing great work for her union, which is tremendous. I started off in Pittsburgh working for the, basically for the Allegheny County Public Defender's Office, where I spent most of my time in juvenile and family. So while we were doing that, we were getting accustomed to the area. We're the only ones who lived in, for both of our families, lived in Pennsylvania. We knew no one when we moved out here. And we were able to find a great community of support, friends, and family eventually that really kind of made it feel like home. But home still for most of my family is in Connecticut, so we go back a fair amount of time for that. My wife's family being in Ohio, we actually go back there a lot, and we do camping, which is a big thing for us, but we do that on the Ohio-West Virginia border, where we are currently doing a whole bunch of college prep for my son as he pursues a variety of options that kind of dot up and down that border between our states. My end guess is he's going to pick Slippery Rock, which we're very proud of him to be in there. So whichever he does, it's going to be, we're just excited for him to have that opportunity. But we've loved being in Mount Lebanon and being a state rep for all these years. Most of the time I do disability mental health work. On the legal side, I continue to be active in special education. And my wife and I met, funny enough, in AmeriCorps. So we try to keep an eye on good projects that can help people along the way. We met in the NCCC program in DC and ended up spending 10 months together building homes for Habitat Humanity, doing disaster Red Cross relief, doing a DC public schools project, all these types of things that we did together, and found each other in that program, and that led us back here closer to her home and to Pittsburgh, which has just been a great place for us to be. I was honored to get highly recommended by the Bar Association when I went there to start our campaign, and I know a bunch of lawyers will know what that is. Most people don't. And to be honest, I didn't know law, my family didn't know law when I went to law school. My mom actually was against it. I'd gone to school to be a teacher, a history teacher. And she's like, why don't you just stay there? But I was really convinced that I'd have a greater chance to be of service. and to help people with law. So I was excited to do it. I spent 11 years or so in court, 3 to 4 days a week, every week basically, as a public defender and then a county solicitor here in Allegheny County. I spent most of that time working in family, where I did juvenile work, but I also did work in criminal and orphans, where we did mental health commitments. I tried to get a bunch of experience that way. And then on the solicitor side, doing the dependency, which meant trying to help when kids were in challenging things at home. It's basically where it was. I then started putting together some work in special education with a friend who ended up, Ruder Law is the name of the firm, doing that type of work. But right then and there, I had a decision to make about, am I going to stay in law at the time, or was I going to go to an opportunity to serve in the legislature? I had just been commissioner in Mount Lebanon, and so I really did enjoy sort of that aspect of service to the community. So I decided to do the legislature. During that time, where I still am now, coming up on just almost 12 years, but 11 years now, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of work on the Judiciary Committee, where I currently am the majority vice chair on that committee. We do a lot of work touching on every aspect of court. So no matter what division, it basically runs through our committee. I've tried to write a lot of bills and a lot of amendments during my time in there. I generally focus on juvenile justice, disability, mental health. Those are key aspects to my experience. The disability and the mental health world in particular has been like a primary focus, both in the Judiciary Committee and at home. I kind of got into that more, not only because of the special education work I was doing when I earned my teaching certificate, but as a public defender and a county solicitor, to be honest, we were finding, besides from, of course, generational poverty, over and over again, we were having one case after another where there was mental health, disability, substance use, or the combination of all three, just constantly coming in, case after case after case. So in order to represent my clients as well as I thought I could or wanted to, I had to become familiar with the world. And part of that world included their mental health and their disability needs. So when we got to the legislature, I knew that that would be a priority of interest. And to be honest, I kind of thought that there would be a lot of other people sort of interested in that. There's more now, but for a while anyhow, there really wasn't. So I've tried to show leadership in that world, and a lot of that, of course, goes right to rights. The Americans with Disabilities Act was probably the last major civil rights bill in our country's history. And it's good, obviously fantastic, and made a difference. But still not exactly where we need to be, especially when it comes to some other aspects of life, employment, rights, and so forth. So I knew that we'd have to spend a lot of time legally on disability and mental health issues. From that work, we do in my office a Disability and Mental Health Summit, which, depending on when you view this, could be coming up on May 8th at CCAC, but we do it every year, 12th year in a row, where we prioritize a whole bunch of disability and mental health issues, from housing, employment, special education. No matter how it impacts life, we talk about it at these summits. It's a big thing that I enjoy doing. And through my opportunity there, I've been blessed. I think I've gotten like 10 or 11 awards from disability and mental health advocacy groups regarding the bills, the legislation that we've tried to put forth to increase opportunity and independence for everybody. So I've been really kind of fortunate to be actively engaged in that. So my hope is, besides from meeting the highly recommended rating standard of the Bar Association, that my extensive career in the courtroom, which again, thousands of court appearances, primarily in family, both as a public defender and as a county solicitor, combined with what I bring from the legislature, which has been massive action in relation to almost every judiciary-related bill that's come out in 11 years or so, with a primary focus on disability, mental health, and juvenile justice. My belief is that through that lens, I could bring an important view to the bench and an understanding about the application of law and the intent behind the creation of the law, and hopefully get to better outcomes for everybody involved. You know, I'm excited to run for judge, and I always knew that my last election, my last effort to serve would be on the bench, for the bench. And I'll tell you, it's been great to be engaged working through the campaign countywide, talking to people in the city, north, south, east, west. It's really been interesting and engaging to talk about what people are hoping to see from the bench, where they would like to see improvement from, and then the value our judges have and our importance, the role that they play in relation to our democracy and our government here. You know, to some degree with it's more important now than ever, I think, that we have, you know, committed judges on the bench. And obviously, from my perspective, what motivated me, like I mentioned earlier, I'm the first one in my family born in this country. I always wanted to find ways to be of service. It's something my grandmother and my mom instilled in me early on. It's what led me to enlist in the Army National Guard, to the fire department, to AmeriCorps, to the State House, and then a natural progression, I believe, as to a role on the bench, was this idea that there is something here that's very important in America. And law, the American jurisprudence, is what is an important foundation to that. It's what brought my grandmother to pack up 4 kids and a couple suitcases and bring them over by herself, because she believed that there was equality and opportunity here. And while no one would profess perfection, we had the chance to find it here. And so I always believed that there was something uniquely amazing in sort of American law. And that as we help it become more of what it is intended to be, the stronger it can be. I never believe that there's an aspect of law to which equality cannot be found, right? It's all there for us. It's meant to be there for us. And so I very much am excited to sort of have a greater role in making sure that that equality exists for everybody when they come in to the courtroom. And I recognize, like for many people, I grew up, we didn't know a lawyer. I never went to a courtroom, right? This is all a foreign concept, right? And I know for most people, courts can often be a scary place where something unfortunate may have happened, or they're afraid something will happen. No matter what, though, I'll tell you, when I was a public defender, the key thing to me is I wanted my clients to see me sweat. And what I meant by that is I didn't just mean that because I wanted them to believe that I was a hardworking attorney, which I felt that I was. I wanted them to believe that they had equality in the system, right? That although they may not have been able to afford a private attorney, that they still had that chance for justice to be found. And I can't tell you for sure that everybody felt the same, but I did love the moments when my clients saw the sweat. And again, not because they watched me do it, but because I was hoping that they would see the same thing that attracted my grandmother to bring over her kids, my father as an immigrant to come over, that they were like, you know what, in America, everybody's equal. Everybody has an opportunity, and the law's not going to treat us differently. Now again, there's a lot there, and a lot of things we still have to do to get to that moment where everybody believes that to be the case. But that's what was my big point in becoming an attorney. It's why at the heart of it I run for the bench. And yes, I'm very excited to offer my knowledge of not just the courtroom, but also the ideas of what disability and mental health look like in its forms, and how so much of that part of human experience, unfortunately, is washing into the courts. And then sometimes some people are struggling with how to help and how to bring cases to completion, and what justice should look like when you see somebody fully for who they are. And I think I can do that, and I look forward to it, and that's what motivates me to run for judge. You know, let me give you an example of the type of issues that motivate me as an attorney and that motivate me to run for judge. So stay with me for a moment, okay? I represent a young person who we are trying to help with an IEP, okay? An IEP, of course, is when somebody has a disability that's impacting how they learn, okay? A kid at school. And we were in negotiations trying to help the young man get the modifications and supports that he needed to find success given his diagnosis, right? Sounds simple, Often isn't, and our goal, of course, is to try and avoid court as much as possible. But we were trying, we knew that this wasn't working right. We were backing it up with all the sort of evidence that we needed to really make the case. And we were struggling in the school district to get to a place where we felt that the young man was ready to learn and was going to be in a better situation. The challenge that came up for us is in the middle of this. There's a fly trying to get me. The challenge of this was in the middle of it.
Did you start over?
No, it's just a fly. So the challenge was for us is one of the issues that impacted the young man was a severe anxiety, okay? So in the middle of us trying to negotiate something better for his IEP, he had a test at school. And in the middle of the test, his anxiety peaked. He ended up leaving his desk, kind of moving very quickly and going underneath the teacher's desk. Didn't say anything, didn't cause a stir besides from the fact that he went under the teacher's desk. The teacher tried to get him out. The young man was like, no, I'm okay. I need to relax. Just let me relax for a moment. The teacher, understandably, in many ways, called down to the central office, let them know what happened. And then kept on going. The class was not disrupted. Nobody else did anything. The young man was quiet underneath the desk, trying to get himself to a better spot. The school ended up sending somebody. You could imagine it was a security personnel to some degree, and got under there, told the young man to get out, my client. And he's like, no, I just need a minute. Just give me a minute. Now, despite the fact that we already had an IEP, a behavioral support plan in place, that everybody knew the challenges, and that the young man was telling them they had challenges, the school official decided the best thing to do would be to reach in, grab the young man by his ankle, and yank him out and pull him out from underneath that desk. Well, you could imagine what a lot of people will do when they're being pulled out from a place that they felt was safe for a moment. My client kind of pushed back, kind of kicked back. Well, when you do that and you strike a school official, you run the risk of getting a felony aggravated charge, aggravated assault charge, and that's what they did. So they filed on my client an aggravated assault felony 2. And my client was 10 years old, okay? 10 years old. Now, we ended up going to court on this assault charge. And they had offered him to have a consent decree, which is like a first-time offenders program. First-time offenders program they were offering also included an admission provision, which meant that if our client, who had clear issues with his IEP, clear challenges at school, happened to not comply in a way that the court or someone found to be sufficient, they would automatically find him guilty of the aggravated assault felony 2. I was not happy with that as an option, and I argued and argued and argued to try and find a different path. That led to a discussion as well with the judge. Long story short, the judge strongly suggested I take the consent decree. Now, my point in bringing this up was no matter what I tried to explain to the district attorney and to the judge at the time, they were not familiar with a behavioral support plan. They were not as in-depth regarding the diagnosis of the young man. And they were taking a different perspective as to what this 10-year-old would need or how best to support him and make sure that these types of incidents wouldn't occur. And that's despite the fact that the school district should really never have yanked the young man by his ankle to pull him out from underneath the desk in the first place. Why do I bring it up? I bring it up because it's just one of the examples of the reality that so many people are finding themselves in. That now, and we are finding judges much more informed, and I know there's professionals trying to do more work on this regard. We're still dealing with a situation where the vast majority of cases that are fueling the criminal justice system, family division, obviously aspects of orphans court, their mental health, their disability related, and our failure to address a public health crisis continues to push more of these cases and these people into the criminal justice world, where they are less likely to find success long term. Somebody said to me, well, I support mental health court. I said, that's very nice. Here's a reality for it. They're all mental health court. Every place is mental health court, because that's what's in the system. We need to do better. I believe we can and should do better. And I think it's very much important for us to elect judges who understand the difference between anxiety and being nervous, depression and having a bad day, what it means to have a behavioral support plan, autism, the entire spectrum of the human experience that is washing into these courtrooms. I think we can do better. So listen, let me give you a couple of just the basics here first. First, I was very honored to be given the highly recommended rating from the Bar Association. I'm excited to offer my experience from being in court 11 years, 3 to 4 days a week, thousands of court appearances, family court, and all the work that I've done in that relation. So I'm excited to offer you that. I think that's pretty compelling, along with the idea that I've just got done doing a whole bunch of work on the legislative side, writing law, debating law, analyzing it for constitutionality, understanding what was done, how it was designed for the intent of law. That all relates, and I've been very blessed with that opportunity. I think it's something of value. I'm also excited to just, for my campaign purposes, I've really enjoyed sort of casting a big net and bringing everybody together. So I've gotten everything from the support of Governor Shapiro to and the endorsements of all across the elected officials, from Austin Davis to Sarah Namarato, from Summerlee to Chris DeLuzio to Dan Frankel to Abigail Salisbury, Jay Costa. I mean, it's been almost the entirety of the spectrum there. And that was all done by design. I wanted to pull together what is the full range of my party, in particular's political spectrum. I'm running for judge. I'm not running for judge for one particular ideology or another. I'm trying to run with the direction and with the support of everybody who thinks I might have something of value to offer. I've been very blessed to get the support of a variety of organizations, from everything from, again, the county party to the building trades to the labor council to the justice slate to the young Dems, the college Dems, everything in between. We've done very well, and I would just want to thank everybody. Even though one or two maybe who I didn't get, maybe we got close, I don't know. But we tried to get as many endorsements as we could. And the whole point about that is, again, I was trying to show a broad range for everything that comes together in the courts. And I didn't want to reflect one particular aspect or another. Look, public service has been my honor. It's been a big thing, like I've mentioned here. I'm the first one in my family born in this country. It was instilled for me to find ways to be of service. My grandmother would always tell the story of when she first came across Americans in World War II as a young girl trying to dodge the London bombing, right? She would tell me, find ways to wear a flag, right? Find ways to wear a flag. And so that led me to a variety of things, you know, to the enlisting out of high school, to 14 years with Mount Lebanon Fire Department, to AmeriCorps, to the State House, to the majority whip of the State House, all these amazing things of service. I hope that I've tried to show something that not only is compelling for a commitment for your vote, but also would be something to which my grandmother and mom would be proud of, right? So that's what I hope for. My belief is that I can offer something of value to you, and I know that coming up on May 20th, everybody has a decision to make. Right, there's 8 spots. That's a big number that shows really the future and direction for what you hope to see on the Court of Common Plea. What I can tell you about it is I work pretty hard. I'm not trying to reinvent anything as far as showing you something different than what I am. I spend most of my time either helping people. My clients overwhelmingly have been those who are poor, those with disabilities, those with mental health issues. I can relate to a lot of that world. And I know sometimes the challenges that it takes to find your way through in our country. I still remember when we first got health care. I still remember when my mom got her first credit card when we were 17 years old. You know, I remember how we used to take a bungee cord. She'd put me underneath the car, and I'd take the bungee cord to wrap the bumper around because our bumper kept falling off, right? I remember gas rationing for us, where it wasn't because of some problems in the 70s. When we're out of money, you're out of money. There's gas rationing at home, right? We've come a long way. My family has. I think a lot of us have these stories. My belief strongly is that we need our courts to be a place where everybody's equal, and that opportunity is there, and that flag still has to mean something when you walk in that door. I don't care where you're from. I don't care where your background is. I don't care who you love. I don't care your ability, disability. I don't care what your diagnosis is. I don't care about the color of their skin. I want you to know, I want you to see the sweat from the system working to give fairness for everybody and equality before the law. That's why I'm running. And if you could think of me on May 20th for one, not trying to be greedy, just one of your 8 votes, I'd really appreciate the opportunity to serve you.